Hello Dippers, welcome to volume 35 of Humpday Hysteria. As always, post on Twitter and Instagram at the Saucy Pod. Listen to all our podcasts on iTunes and Spotify. With me this week, as always, our St. Louis correspondent, Fletcher Hoig.
Leighton, it's no surprise that the league that empowers the players the most has the most impactful free agency and trade deadline, and you're just seeing it this week.
Yep. Well, we'll get to that trade deadline in this episode, because this whole episode is about the trade deadline. But before we get to it, let's drop the noise.
Humpday. Who's Hysteria?
A Sauce on the Side production.
So let's start with what didn't happen today. Anthony Davis was not traded to Los Angeles Lakers, who got traded anywhere actually. Last week we came on here and talked about what we would give up for Anthony Davis. It came down to it. And the Lakers offered that and more. They offered 2 first-round picks, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Van Ingram, Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, Michael Beasley, and they're going to take on Solomon Hill's contract. Still didn't get it done. I guess that's all we can expect them to give up for it, and this didn't happen. So let's see what happens this summer, but that's enough what didn't happen. Now let's get to what did happen. Kristaps Porzingis was traded to the Dallas Mavericks from the New York Knicks. In the trade, the Mavericks received Kristaps Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Courtney Lee, and the Knicks received Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, and DeAndre Jordan. Jordan and Matthews, of which are both on expiring contracts. The Knicks also received 2 first-round picks in the deal. I would like this trade for both teams. I like how New York opened a lot of cap space so they can have a shot at getting a couple of free agents this season, while still being awful enough to get the top pick in the draft. And the Mavericks just got so much cooler from this trade. Yeah. Earlier today, the Mavericks made another move and traded Harrison Barnes to the Kings for Zach Randolph and Justin Jackson, clearing up a ton of cap space so they can make a run at a few guys like the Knicks. So Fletcher, let's start with the Knicks. How do you feel about the trade they made for Kristaps?
Well, the Knicks, I mean, it's an okay trade because they cleared up cap space, so they have room to sign 2 max guys now. The thing is, though, the Knicks are so poorly run, they should be in a situation where they could keep Kristaps Porzingis and still get 2 max guys. They just didn't work it that way, so that's why you see them trading such a huge piece in Kristaps. You heard rumors, though, that Kristaps didn't really want to be in New York. He's been having tension with that organization ever since he skipped his exit meeting with Phil Jackson and other front office people with the Knicks. So they did what they kind of had to do. They got a young player in Dennis Smith. They got a couple picks out of it. They got some expiring deals to go out and sign those guys. So they made the best of a bad situation. But in all reality, they shouldn't have had to deal anything to have 2 open max slots right now.
So, do you like the deal they did, or do you think they should have kept Kristaps and the contracts and all that stuff?
No, they did what they had to do. I think they made the best move possible for themselves. It's just that it's a huge sting when you have to give up Kristaps as well.
And now from Mavericks' point of view, they got Kristaps, which was cool, and then today they cleared up a ton of cap space going into a humongous free agent market this season. Talk to us about what you like about the Mavericks, what they did.
Well, they have 2 future superstars that are going to really come into their own in this league with Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. They also added Tim Hardaway Jr., who's a phenomenal shooter and a phenomenal scorer. He's under contract for a while, too. He's getting owed about $70 million in total on his contract. So that's something they're going to have to pay for. They have Kristaps and Luka on their rookie deals. So, but in dealing away DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, I mean, those were expiring contracts that they were going to have off the books anyway. That was going to be, $30 million opened up to them. They could go out and sign a max guy. But then they go ahead and ditch Harrison Barnes' contract for Justin Jackson. And they get a younger player, but more importantly, they come off that huge contract with Harrison Barnes, and that opens up approximately $55 million for next offseason, or for this coming offseason. So you're looking at almost being able to sign 2 max guys. That's a lot of money to go out and play with when you have such talented guys like Kristaps Porzingis, like Luka Doncic, really kind of on house money with their rookie contracts and how talented they are this early.
Dallas, recently, especially, hasn't always been a huge fan destination. With the way NBA is now, and markets not really mattering as much, could you see them getting Kevin Durant and somebody else, or how do you think it's going to turn out for them?
it's hard to say who's going to go where at this point in time because just nobody knows. There's too much speculation, and other dominoes have to fall before you can really get an idea of what's going to happen. It's good to have that space there, but you have to be wise with your money. Just because you don't land a Kevin Durant, a Klay Thompson, a Jimmy Butler or whoever, doesn't mean you should just go out and spend that money anyway. You look at them before getting trapped with a Wesley Matthews contract for 4 years, $80 million. Otto Porter, 4 years, $100 million. You don't want to get strapped with those contracts just because you have that open money available. So my advice for the Mavericks is be cautiously optimistic. Don't go and spend that money just because you have it available to you. Sit on it and make the right thing happen.
Okay. So you like the move then for the Mavericks?
Oh God, yeah. How do you not? You get another young star who's on his rookie deal, and you get all that cap space. It's a win-win.
Just hit the Kings real quick. If Vlade Divac try to make the Kings most mediocre team of all time?
Well, they are really just saddled with young players all over the place. You got De'Aaron Fox, you got Buddy Hield, you got Bogdanovich, Willie Cauley-Stein, Marvin Bagley. They had Justin Jackson. They got young guys. Harry Giles. They got young guys all over this roster. They are at the 9 spot right now in the playoffs, or in the Western Conference seeding. They are on the verge of being able to make the playoffs. So you add Harrison Barnes in for Justin Jackson. Your team obviously gets better, but you bring in a guy who's a veteran. He's won a championship or two. He knows what it takes, and they're just looking for a kind of mentor player who's still talented enough to help put them over that hump and get them that playoff experience. That would be huge for a young team like that. So that's kind of what Vlade's thinking there.
Okay, now on to our next trade. 76ers kind of went all in and traded Tobias Harris, or traded for Tobias Harris from the Clippers. In the trade, the 76ers received Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, and Max Scott. The Clippers received Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, 2 first-round picks. Neither pick for this season. It's the 2020 Philadelphia pick and a 2021 pick for Miami, and also 2 future first-round picks. So the Clippers did the smart thing and decided they weren't going to battle for the AC in the playoffs, and they're also going to set some cap space. But were the 76ers smart for deploying all their depth and going all in?
This move makes them immediate contenders in the Eastern Conference, no doubt. They're one of the best teams. You have a big four with Tobias, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and Ben Simmons. They did another trade. Well, actually, real quick, just stick into this Tobias Harris trade real quick. They actually gave up more for Tobias Harris than they did for Jimmy Butler, which is kind of wild because you really think of Jimmy Butler as being more of a high quality player. I think it just shows the difference in intelligence between Jerry West and Tom Thibodeau as far as being able to make a deal and get things done. With the trade here, though, I mean, both sides get kind of what they want again. They get Tobias Harris, who's almost an all-star in the Western Conference. They get Mike Scott, who is a stretch 4, a guy who can come off the bench, gives them depth, more shooting. But then for the Clippers, they get Wilson Chandler and Mike Muscala. They can come off those contracts at the end of this year. They get 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet among rookies is leading rookies in 3-point percentage this year. So you add him to Jerome Robinson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They have another group of young players there, not necessarily stars or anything like that, like you see in Dallas, but they got nice young players and a lot of cap space coming up with a lot of picks. They could be a team that really makes a lot of moves in the offseason. So it's interesting to see what happens there.
Okay, so they said they want to re-sign both Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler after the season. Joel Embiid is already making the max. Ben Simmons will demand that soon. Is it actually possible for them to keep all 4 of these guys? Because we know Butler's going to demand the max, and Tobias is going to demand close to it.
Yeah, Tobias Harris already turned down a 4-year, $80 million extension from the Clippers last offseason, and so he's really eyeing the max this year. So Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, you assume they take the max. That's 3 guys. You got 1 more year of Ben Simmons on his rookie deal. And at that point, paying 4 stars is really going to be hard to do. And then 4 guys who really want the ball, too, at all times, That's really hard to do. You look at the Warriors situation. They had 4 all-stars. And what happened was it was really a perfect storm with the way the CBA broke there. They had guys under contracts from the old CBA that were max contracts. The salary cap really kind of ballooned, and they were able to go and open up the books again and get an extra star in with their big 3. The way that it also worked on the court, though, is Draymond Green is the kind of guy who doesn't care if he scores 6 points. he's a great passer and is a great defender, so he doesn't really demand the ball a whole lot on offense. And then Klay Thompson might take 10 dribbles all game. So you got two guys on that are stars in that team that really don't demand the ball. And so having four guys in this current CBA who all need the ball to be effective, it's kind of interesting to see how it'll work money-wise and how it will work on the court.
Okay, so staying with the 76ers now, it also has been noticed today they traded Markelle Fultz to the Orlando Magic. The Magic in the trade received Markelle Fultz, and the Sixers received Jonathan Simmons and a first second-round pick. Markelle Fultz has similarly been on the trade block for it seems like the day he got drafted almost. And it finally happened today. They got Jonathan Simmons for a second-round pick, even further putting in a way to add to their depth because Markelle Fultz is just kind of unplayable right now. So how do you feel like the 76ers making this move?
Yeah, so the 76ers, they had a legitimate two-guard. One of the things that I always talk about that makes me so angry with the 76ers is, they traded Mikal Bridges, and then as a result, Markelle Fultz kind of petered out there for him, more or less. And then they had to start J.J. Redick and T.J. McConnell as the backup two-guard. I'm like, that's so stupid. Why would you not keep Mikal Bridges? Let him start at the two. You have a legitimate 6'7" guy who can play the wing. Well, they added that in Jonathan Simmons now, and they got a first-round pick, and they got a second-round pick. They also signed James Ennis. He's not a big-name guy, but he's another 6'5", 6'6" guy who can actually shoot the basketball. He adds depth to the wing. So the 76ers are addressed a lot in these trades, They got Tobias Harris, another big-time player who can shoot the ball. He can put the ball on the floor, do a lot of different things. They add Jonathan Simmons, terrific shooter, terrific athlete, terrific defender. They add James Ennis. So now what you have is, and they add Mike Scott. So you have the backup stretch four, you have the starting two guard, and then you have James Ennis and J.J. Redick coming off the bench as your kind of wing shooters there. And then that allows T.J. McConnell to go to his true position of the backup point guard. So they corrected a lot of issues for themselves in this trade block, or in this trade deadline. What's interesting to note, though, is they traded Landry Shamet and that Miami 2021 unprotected first-round pick for Tobias Harris. And, that's essentially trading Mikal Bridges for Tobias Harris straight up when you look at what they did with the draft and throughout the season. So I like what the 76ers have this year. I just don't know if it's going to be sustainable financially or, on the court as well, just because there's only one ball and one hoop.
On the Magic real quick, the Magic are currently, I think, the 10th or 11th seed in the Eastern Conference. They've traded both the draft picks from this year away, and on the center for Markelle Fultz, who, like I said, they're basically unplayable at this point. Haven't played all season, really. What do you think they're thinking? Obviously, they think that they can make Markelle Fultz what he could be, but do you think that's too much to give up?
Well, they're not. It's not either one of their picks. It's a first and second round draft pick from, I believe, Cleveland, and then maybe Charlotte as well. So they're giving up two picks that aren't really kind of theirs to worry about. That might be a bit much though for Markelle Fultz. When you look at a team like the 76ers and you look at a team like the Orlando Magic, one of those teams did the process, and one of them absolutely failed, and that's the team who's been tanking for seemingly forever now, since the Dwight Howard years in Orlando. So they don't have much of a prayer for anything right now. They have Markelle Fultz. Hopefully he can turn things around. They have Mo Bamba. We'll just see what they do. I mean, you look at a team right there that just misses in free agency, misses in the draft, and they just continue to tank and go nowhere pretty much.
All right, and now let's go back to the Clippers. They talked about earlier how Lakers were unable to trade for Anthony Davis. And so then, and I think we talked about this earlier, kind of a pressure move to do something. They traded the Clippers for Mike Muscala. They traded Ivan Zubac and Michael Beasley. From the Clippers' perspective, I guess this is a fine move to get expiring contract in Beasley and a player like trying to get really good in Zubac. But for the Lakers, this has to be actually crushing, because you really asked me last week, I thought there's no way they weren't going to let Anthony Davis slip out of their hands, make it this offseason. It's all they could do. So is this then basically just trying to tell the fan base, hey, we're trying to get shit done?
I mean, really what it is just adding a guy who can stretch the floor for LeBron James. I don't know why. The Lakers offered several trades for Anthony Davis and couldn't get anything to fall through. We know that, obviously. And they wouldn't even counter it. It was a very strange deal. It seemed like the Pelicans GM, or Dell Demps, was just trying to... Yeah, Dell Demps. they offered a huge package for him that included, or for Anthony Davis, and they wouldn't even counter. They basically just tried to get them to bid against themselves, and it's led to a lot of locker room turmoil. It would appear, but they couldn't get Anthony Davis, obviously, so they're looking for that stretch forward to kind of help spread things out with LeBron because there is a lack of shooting on that team. But just real quick to go back to the Dell Demps thing, if you're the Pelicans and you counter with an offer of 2 first-round picks, then you go Ball, Kuzma, Ingram, Zubac, and maybe even Josh Hart. I don't know where you're going to get a better offer because that's 5 legitimate young players and 2 first-round picks. That's way better than a single Tatum. So it's just kind of weird to me to see this kind of stuff playing out like it is. Like, I don't know what's going on with the Pelicans or the Lakers at this point.
So do you think? I heard today one analyst said that the Lakers might not make the playoffs. He did not think they will. Do you think they can make the playoffs and think Muscala helps them get there?
He's going to help marginally for sure. I mean, he's going to help open the court up a little bit, which might be helpful for Kuzma and Ingram and Ball and LeBron. But you're going to have to see LeBron really put his foot on the gas to get this team. I mean, they were at the 4 seed, flirting with the 3 seed at one point. You're going to have to see LeBron really put his foot on the gas right now to get a bottom 4 spot in the playoffs, I think. And a part of that is, him coming back from an injury. They're looking at what Luke Walton called the load management, and then he's also got the minutes thing that he's had to worry about. Doing too much, doesn't want to re-injure himself, which I can't believe I'm saying about LeBron, but it's it happens to everybody at some point. But then also with these trade rumors that got leaked out, these young guys, they got to have kind of some doubts and some curiosities and other concerns for themselves. So there's an issue of self-confidence there with your younger players as well. It's a really toxic situation right now surrounding LeBron James and the Lakers.
Okay, so if we move on, gut check, do they make it?
Yeah, I'm going to say they make it, and they're going to be one of the bottom seeds in the West.
Okay. So now, the Toronto Raptors, this second team is in conference, was going to sit idly by as the 76ers come near them. They went ahead and made a trade with Memphis to get Marc Gasol. In the trade, the Raptors received Marc Gasol. I don't think anything's come out that they got any more than that. And the Grizzlies received Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and a 2024 second-round pick. So, Fletcher, the question here obviously is, how valuable is a 2024 second-round pick?
It's about as valuable as my walking boot, I think, for somebody who doesn't have a broken ankle.
So, Toronto, gotta let this move for them, right?
Yeah, one of the things I said about Toronto is, they're going to have regular season success. It's going to be huge for them. And the thing I said is all that depth matters in the regular season, but come playoff time, that depth is not as important because you shorten your rotation and you rely on guys to play bigger minutes and bigger roles. Well, they kind of addressed that. They did lose Jonas Valanciunas and C.J. Miles and DeLon Wright, 3 quality players, and you don't like to give up quality players, but they were literally playing 12 guys deep this year. So they lose 3 guys and add 1, guy who's having a relatively good year still. Shoots the ball, passes it well, is going to fit in nicely with our offense, and they still have 10 guys to play. So they had a legitimate bona fide player, I'm not going to say star at this point, but a legitimate bona fide player who can stretch the floor in Marc Gasol. You have, Serge Ibaka, Kawhi, Danny Green, Kyle Lowry, and then off the bench you still have Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. I mean, you've got guys in that roster who can still play and defend and shoot. So I love this move. I think it's going to help them nicely come playoff time. I think they're going to mix and match lineups with Gasol and Ibaka taking turns at center and how they work on that. They did that with Jonas Valanciunas. I don't expect that to change. It's just now you have a better skilled player to do that with. So I love this move for Toronto.
Okay, and talk about this earlier. Marc Gasol had $24 million off for next season. Even with that option, they still have enough money to be signing Kawhi Leonard. So there's no worry about him coming back, correct?
Financially speaking, no. You're going to have room to get him. Will he come back, though? Actually, that's the question.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that just this summer would be good to look at.
I'm excited. This is going to be a great summer.
So normally, this is where we have to touch on the fly, but since we're just milking Fletcher's brand for everything at already, I don't want to make him terminally ill, so there was no touch on the fly this week. So, some other notable trades that happened the past couple of days. The Bulls acquired Otto Porter from the Wizards for Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker, and a 23 second round pick. The Wizards just lost John Wall for the season, actually for an entire year, with an Achilles tear case slipped and fell in his home. Do you think the Wizards will be big sellers this summer?
Well, they were going to be for sure. They're not going to be as big now since John Wall's hurt. That's just a case when, they talked about trading Beal and Wall earlier in the year, and, you really... This is what I said. You got to have a team identity. You got to be all in or all out. There's no in professional sports. You don't gain anything by being halfway in. You don't gain by being 1 foot in and 1 foot out. They should have sold Beal and Wall when they had the opportunity, and now that they're stuck with that John Wall contract, he's had a couple knee surgeries. Now he's tore his Achilles. He's not going to be the same player he was. He's going to be older. He's going to be making a lot of money. No one's going to want that contract, so now they're going to be settled with John Wall. They're going to look to deal Beal. They dealt Otto Porter Jr., like you said. They got Bobby Portis and Jabari Parker in a second-round pick. They're going to come off that Jabari Parker trade, I'm sure. They're going to open up $20 million in cap space for themselves. Bobby Portis, he's got one more year before his rookie deal is up. Otto Porter is projected to make roughly $26 million over the next 2.5 years. So that's a nice contract to come off of. I don't understand what you're doing if you're the Bulls, though. You don't like Jabari Parker. You don't like Bobby Portis. They're making less money combined than what you're paying for Otto Porter Jr. You can come off that Jabari Parker deal next year if you want to. Jabari Parker is a more skilled player than Otto Porter Jr. I don't understand what Gar Forman is really looking at there for Chicago, but it's just the Wizards trying to save cap space at this point and seeing, what deals they can come off of for picks.
All right. Next trade is one that I like a lot. I think every team in it got better. The Cavaliers acquired Brandon Knight, Marquez Chris, and Houston's 2019 first-round pick. The Kings received Alex Book, and Houston receives Iman Shumpert, Nick Stauskas, and Wade Baldwin. I like this trade because the Cavaliers get Marquez Chris and Houston first-round pick. They shed cap. The Kings get Alex Book, and they shed cap. And Houston gets Iman Shumpert, Nick Stauskas. Iman Shumpert at one point in time was seen as one of the better 3-and-D guys in the league. And then Nick Stauskas is a guy who, at some point in time, could become a good 3-point shooter. That was good for them. Later on, Nick Stauskas and Baldwin were traded to Indiana, so no one keeps Stauskas. But Fletcher, how do you feel about everything involved in that trade?
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, I like the Cavaliers getting Marquise Chris in the first round pick. Obviously, you're looking, if you're the Cavaliers, to acquire young talent and picks. But Brandon Knight. At first, you dealt George Hill, so you would have Colin Sexton. So I mean, you draft Colin Sexton, you trade George Hill so you can get more playing time for Colin Sexton, and then you go and trade for Brandon Knight. I don't understand that aspect of it, but if you have to take on Brandon Knight's contract to get a first-round pick and Marquise Chris, I understand that. That's probably the Rockets' mindset in including Brandon Knight. Again, Alec Burks, he's a solid player he is a solid player, young player. He got some decent athleticism, shoots the ball well. He's a 6'6" guard. That's a nice move for the Kings. The Houston Rockets, they get Iman Shumpert, he's shooting the ball okay this year, and then they deal Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin to the Indiana Pacers, including a second-round pick, and then the Pacers just cut them for cash purposes. So it's not a huge headline kind of deal, but it's nice for the teams in a bunch of different ways.
All right, and last trade of note, the Pistons acquired Thon Maker, who I love, from the Bucks for Stanley Johnson. The Bucks then traded Stanley Johnson to New Orleans for Nikola Mirotic. So essentially, the Bucks traded Thon Maker for Nikola Mirotic. Fletcher, you said earlier that you love them getting Mirotic. Tell me why.
Well, a couple second-round picks were included there as well. The Pelicans were really wanting to get a first-round pick for Mirotic. Chips didn't fall their way, so I guess they were a little more determined to deal Nikola Mirotic than they were Anthony Davis. But Nikola Mirotic, he is on pace to make well over 100 threes this year. He's shooting roughly 38% from three. The Bucks as a team are like second or third in the NBA in attempts, and then also second or third for makes as well. And they're shooting a really high percentage. They're adding a 6'10" guy who can play the 3, 4, or 5. You've seen him play the 3, 4, or 5 for Chicago and New Orleans now, so that's great. And he's just going to continue to add to the shooting that they need to create that space around Giannis and Eric Bledsoe. I really like what I'm seeing right there. I mean, you can go with a lineup that includes. I mean, you can go. I talked about this before. You talked about length and size and stuff like that. They have so many options to throw at you now. I mean, they could put a lineup with Giannis at the 1, Middleton, and then just go Mirotic, Ilyasova, and Brook Lopez. And they are going to shrink the floor on so many teams. So I like that move a lot for them. It's a big time move, but it's going kind of underreported really.
Okay, so I know I said this is going to be about the trade deadline, but since all the Eastern Conference teams made big moves today, I'm talking about the Eastern Conference and the playoffs just a little bit. After all the trades that have been done today, who do you think the best team in the Eastern Conference is right now?
The Milwaukee Bucks.
So you would pick them to win the Eastern Conference in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay. So the one team that didn't make a big trade was the Boston Celtics. Are they just kind of out of it at this point, in your opinion? Or do you think that team can get them together and still do something big?
Well, the one thing that they did do is, I don't know if Danny Ainge was involved with this or what extent he was involved with it, but, they got the Pelicans to hang tight on any trades for Anthony Davis. And if I'm Dell Demps, you remember, think back. Dell Demps was the GM who tried to trade Chris Paul to the Lakers when Chris Paul and Kobe were both in their primes, and the NBA stepped in and would not allow it. Dell Demps was that GM. David Stern has since come out since then and said Dell Demps is a terrible GM, and that if he did that trade, it would have been awful for the NBA. And so what I see here is Dell Demps is like, I'll just sit back and wait and see if I can get a better deal than what I've already gotten. And I'll take Danny Ainge's word for it. Like, Danny Ainge has made a living for the past 11 years of taking other GM lunch money, and I don't think that the stupidest GM in the NBA is going to work out a deal with the Celtics that was better than that Lakers offer, because now when the other offers come in, the Lakers don't have to outbid themselves. They can just outbid Jason Tatum in 2 picks, Yeah. And I don't think that the Pelicans would be willing to settle on just that. So, they're not looking. The Celtics aren't looking to make any huge trades at this point, just because normally they would be in on an Anthony Davis sweepstakes, but they have this weird kind of agreement with the CBA right now with the Rose Rule. They're looking to pick up Enes Kanter in his contract. They might look at Wesley Matthews or something like that as well, but they're just looking for buyout candidates at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you on that a lot, and I'm so glad you brought up the whole waiting for Danny Ainge for similar thing. Because it makes no sense to do that. Because now the Lakers don't have to outbid themselves. They have to outbid what the Celtics or Knicks want to give up.
I mean, they could have gotten legitimately 5 young players and 2 first-round picks from the Lakers.
And get rid of Solomon Hill's contract. All in one fell swoop.
Yeah. And then a funny thing about that Solomon Hill contract, just to show you how awful of a GM Dale Demps is, Solomon Hill was drafted by the Indiana Pacers. And, the Indiana, like, when you have the rookie contracts, like, that last year or the last 2 years, depending on where you were drafted, is a team option. It's a team option or a 2-year team option. And the Pacers just chose not to pick up that last year of that rookie contract, which normally you don't see happen. Mm-hmm. And then so they didn't pick up that rookie option. That's how poorly he played. Dell Demps says, don't worry, Solomon Hill, I'll take care of you, buddy. Here's a 4-year, $48 million deal. And, like, I don't know how that guy still has a job. He should be fired. Their whole organization is Bush League, in my opinion. The offers are only going to go down from the Lakers and every other team, I would imagine. So the Celtics, I think Danny Ainge just worked his magic and played over another GM, in my opinion.
All right. Got check. Where did AD go this summer?
That's a hard one to say. Before, maybe I was thinking that the Raptors might do something after the draft. They did that with Kawhi Leonard. I think the Celtics are determined to make something happen, and I think Dell Demps is definitely determined not to send him to LA. So I think the way that the Pelicans view things right now is that when Anthony Davis signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, they viewed it as a LeBron James, Los Angeles Lakers kind of mission to steal Anthony Davis from them. So I think they're kind of hell-bent on dealing him somewhere else. And I could see them sending him to the Celtics this offseason or the Raptors for a lesser deal just to not give Anthony Davis what he wants.
Okay.
Which is stupid.
And now move on to the best team right now. The Eastern Conference, 76ers got Tobias Harris, who's a star now. The Bucks are first team to 40 wins, got Nikola Mirotic, and the Raptors got Marcus Gasol. I'm going to go with the Bucks, are the best team in the conference right now. Not only the first team to 40 wins, they just went out and got one of the better centers in the NBA, and they talked about they can attack you so many ways now, and I think they're a legitimate competitor in the entire NBA.
I've been riding the Bucks bandwagon on this show now for a little while, and I'm definitely not going to get off now because I love this Nikola Mirotic trade. They are, in my opinion, definitely the best team in the East, and so I'm definitely going with them.
And Western Conference, the top of the conference teams didn't really make any big moves at the deadline. So the Warriors are staying at the end of the pack. Someone has to go with the Warriors. They've been the best team in the Western Conference, and in my opinion, still in the NBA.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to think LeBron was in the East for all those years, and so many teams were tanking and acquiring picks, and people said how weak the East was, and here they are. It's an arms race out East. LeBron goes to the Lakers, and the Lakers aren't even that good, and you have so many Western Conference teams just sitting tight or clearing up cap space. It's kind of interesting to see, the kind of effect that LeBron has on other teams, and they're thinking of how to strategize and build. But, Warriors are definitely the best team out West. I don't think there's any question about that, and I'm just going to go ahead and answer your question right now. I think that they have a slight edge still over the Bucks as far as the best team in the NBA.
All right. And that now makes, 12th straight week of the Warriors being the best team in the NBA, including me and Fletcher.
I don't think my best teams have changed here in a little while. So
I've been the same. I had the Raptors last season conference, but I have the Bucks right now. So that's all my change in mind.
It's hard until the wheels fall off. Pretty much, they just have so much length. So they're just so talented all around. I just can't. Yeah, they're the best team in my opinion in the East. Not even a question.
Yep. And our game of the week. My game of the week is Sunday at 2:30. Lakers travel to Philadelphia. We talked earlier about how Lakers have to start winning games, make the playoffs. So Sixers just got Tobias Harris, so he booked into the lineup for a few games there. So again, looking forward to at 2:30 on Sunday.
Yeah, so looking forward here a few days. Actually, I'm just going to go straight to Monday. And my game that I'm looking forward to is the Mavericks and the Rockets. They've made a lot of changes. I'm excited to see some of those younger players fit in with Luka Doncic. It's basically going to be a tryout period. I really wish that I could just watch Kristaps Porzingis right now with them too. But both teams made a handful of moves at the deadline. So I just want to see the Mavericks and the Rockets on Monday. I would have picked this game, but you stole it from me.
Well. And that has been Volume 35 of Hysteria. As always,
do what? I'll go to Tuesday instead. I like the Celtics and the 76ers playing each other. I just want to see that whole new look of the 76ers against an obvious playoff team. So I'll go Tuesday instead.
Okay, well now, this has been Volume 35 of Hysteria. As always, post on Twitter and Instagram at the Saucy Pod. Listen to us on iTunes or Spotify. From Layton, from Fletcher. As always, Dippers, stay saucy.